Hello, welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. Hello, welcome to the Reloading Podcast here. I was sold. It was a delay. Nobody laughed. Damn it.
Yeah, it's about a 10-second delay.
Anyway. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. I want to take time to thank Patriot Patch Company, patriotpatch.co, who does the lovely patch of the month and all sorts of other awesome patches. So this was the patch of the month for July. Colonial Pocket Dump. They also do stickers and other fun stuff. So, patriotpatch.co. They do t-shirts. If you've got a patch sheet you want made, they've got a program for that. If you've got a t-shirt you want made, they've got a program for that. Go ahead and give Jake and Ryan, the guys, a holler over at patriotpatch.co and see what they can do for you. So, we're looking into actually having a Reloading Podcast shirt. So, we'll see how that goes.
That'd be great.
About time. I've been asking for one for a while.
Only 3.5 years. So that gives you an idea how long it's going to take for that Redding powder dispenser to get to you. Cheers, Jason.
Cheers.
I also want to take time to thank Sean and the gang over at Firearms Radio Network for giving us a place to hang out every week. So we are grateful for that. And I want to thank everybody who joins us live every week, who listens to the downloaded podcast, and who gives us feedback, whether that's through email or messages or postings in either the podcast page on Facebook or the podcast group on Facebook or the Reloading Room or various other places. Instagram. We're on Instagram. I don't do enough on Instagram because I don't know. Probably lack of time more than anything. So, but also want to take time to thank the Patreons, who are a group of people that send us their hard-earned money so that we can afford to do stuff like what we're like I'm ordering tomorrow, which is a Dillon 650 to bring in, assemble, test, and then give away to one of the Patreons. So if you're not a Patreon, by the time you hear my voice, it's too late for the drawing. So for that, but we do have a whole bunch of other things coming down the pipe too. So, how's everybody doing? Don't all speak at once.
Good, Mike. How you been?
I've been okay.
What did you do this week?
I met one of our listeners, and he isn't shooting trap anymore, or not as much as he used to. He shoot semi-pro, and then still used to shoot a lot, but he's not shooting as much as he did. And he blessed the boys and I with a Pacific 366 shot shell loader. So we met up, sat down, and talked about halfway between his house and mine. We sat and talked for probably about 3.5, 4 hours on Saturday night and had a blast. So
nice.
It was fun.
What is a Pacific 366?
It is now known as a Hornady 366 because Hornady bought out Pacific or became Pacific or whatever. Somehow Pacific became Hornady. And so it is a progressive shot shell loader.
Wow.
It's one of the better ones from what I hear, too.
Yeah. So with the boys shooting trap and taking a while to load on a 650, a Mech 650 Junior, which is a single stage, or 600 Junior. Shot shell loaders are a little different than normal. Okay, so When we're talking about single stage versus progressive in your normal everyday metallic, this is what we're talking about. This is a single stage. Only this one's set up right now for
swaging right now.
Swaging, sorry. Going to clear my throat. So this one doesn't have a normal shell holder in it right now, but I can pop this out and you can see it only has a single station to put a shell holder, so it can only process one piece at a time. Put that back in there so it doesn't get lost. I made progress with my bench, still not completely clear. So technically, a 550, Dillon 550, which is this one right here, that is a Lee Classic. I don't even know the official name, but it's the Lee O-Press is what I call it. A lot of people refer to it that because Lee has a couple of different presses in their single stage. They've got a O-Press, which is closed in here, and then they've got a C-Press. It's a different design than this, but it's got the spot for the die up here. It's got the shell plate down here, but there's nothing connecting here, no supporting. So this is kind of a little flimsier. With Dillon, they make a few different presses. This one right here is a 550, and it has 4 spots for brass. Now, technically it's a progressive. However, it's a manually indexing progressive. So what that means, when I pull the handle, go up, come back down, the shell plate does not rotate. I have to manually rotate the shell plate. So that's how that works. Okay. So shot shell. I don't know if I can grab them or not. I don't think I have enough cord to reach over there. Let's see if I can. No, the camera won't reach. So for shot shell, I'll just bring up pictures to share on the screen. Do a screen share. Because unfortunately, my USB cord for my camera isn't that long. But so what I want to show is the difference in shot shell, because shot shell is not quite so simple. Da-da-da. And screen share. All right. So this, I can get it to blow up bigger. That's kind of weak. Okay, so this is a single stage shot shell reloader. However, as you're looking down here on the bottom on this plate, you can see at least 4 different spots. The one you can't see is the depriming station behind it. So there's actually 5 different spots down here for the shot shell to sit. And we'll get into this more when we actually go through and fully show you how to reload a shot shell. I've got to get a camera set up for that yet. As you can see, this camera doesn't really work that well for that. And we want to try and get you better. I'm waiting for one piece to come in. So, but basically how this works is you have to manually move, like physically pick up and move the shot shell from each station. So you do your depriming, you move over here. That little hole right there is to actually put a new primer in. And then you move it over here. And this is where you fill it with powder, wad, and shot. The wad kind of sits in here, pushes down in. And then you've got a pre-crimp and a crimp. So you got to pick this thing up, move it 5 times. In the meantime, with your Hornady, as soon as it loads. So here's the Hornady. It has a traditional shell plate like the Dillon 550 does, or most of your newer progressives, like your 650s, your 1050s, your whatever the RCBS one is, the Hornaday Lock and Load AP, the Lee Loadmasters, the Lyman doesn't have one, I don't think, and Redding doesn't have a progressive. They've got turrets, but not progressive. So what this does is this actually set up here. Here's your powder and your shot. You can get a hull feeder for it, but my understanding is even the hull feeders don't work necessarily. So you still have to actually put your hull, your shot shell hull, in to the machine. You got to slide it into the shell plate. But here's the thing. Once you put it in, you don't touch it again until it is done. It literally moves around to all these stations. Every time you move the lever, it rotates that shell plate just like it does on all of your progressives. So that's the advantage. So, and they've got a whole bunch of different features that they put on this, different bells and whistles that they put on those things to kind of make it nice. Travis has got a over his shoulder, he's got a Ponza Soren. There's Dillon makes one, Mech makes one. So there's a lot of different options out there, even for shot shell progressives. And you can get into some serious money with those too. So, and you can get completely fully automated. Let's see here. I think Mech actually has their 9000G. I think they have a.
It's got a hydraulic. It's got a hydraulic pack on it.
Yeah, but they've got the 9000E, which comes with the Automate, which automates the whole entire process too. So all you got to do is, they don't. The problem with hulls, they don't feed well. They don't feed like brass. So, from my understanding, and don't take my word as gospel, but from my understanding, hulls don't feed very well, so you can't really have an auto feeder for them. So that's the drawback to shotgun. Is unlike actual auto drive hookup on a Dillon 1050, where all you gotta do is fill your hoppers with your brass and your bullets, make sure your powder's filled, make sure your primers are filled, and hit a button, and away it goes. With the shot shells, you got to actually do a little more. You got to actually feed the holes. So, anyway, so I'm looking forward to getting that out and play with. And
Mike, if you don't mind, I have a question about this. Do you have to handle the shell after it comes off of the 6th station or 5th station, whatever it is?
On the Mech or on the Hornaday?
On the Hornaday 366 that you got.
I have no idea.
I'm just curious if it has an ammo chute like Travis's 1050 does.
I'm not sure. Let me look at the instructions while we're talking, and I'll figure it out. I got to download the instructions anyway. So it says automatic shell ejection.
Right.
So yeah, you don't have to remove them manually.
So in other words, you could dump it down a chute of some kind or another, even if you have to make the chute.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, on my Mech 9000, I have a bucket just behind it, and it's just kind of elevated on a platform. So then it has just like a little mini chute.
Mm-hmm.
So then it kind of goes down the mini chute and into, not a bucket, but into a little tiny, those little Rubbermaid totes.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know you had a 9000 as well. Nice.
Yeah, I'm selling it though if anybody wants it.
What do you like better, the 9000 or the Ponsness?
Oh, the Ponsness. It's way better. The Mech 9000 is a nice shot shell reloader, but that Ponsness is a Cadillac.
Yeah. What makes it so much better?
I don't know. I can't figure it out. It's just smoother. I don't know. It's just so much nicer to reload on. It makes a really nice crimp. It just puts out high quality ammo.
Okay.
Say if I never had the Ponsness and I just had that Mech,
yeah,
I would say, oh, this is perfect. But since I got them side by side,
Right.
I can hold the two shells together, and it's just, for some reason, it just seems like that Ponzus Warren is just a little bit higher quality, and it's built like a tank.
Yeah. Looks like you can. It says there's a 366 auto that you can get also, and I don't know what the gas assist is, but yeah. So I don't know if they're just calling the press the 366 auto now, and then the gas assist makes it like semi hands free. I'll have to look into that before we get out. So yeah, and it's got some different bells and whistles that you can get, so it's kind of nice. Definitely looking forward to cranking that thing up. Hopefully this week, so we can get out and do some trap shooting before it gets too chilly around here. So that's what I did. Phil, what'd you do?
Not as much as I would have liked to. I loaded a couple hundred rounds of 5.56. Realized at that moment that I had a whole lot less CFE 223 than I thought I did, because I thought I had a couple of pounds left in the bottom of an 8-pound jug. I didn't have that much. Like, I filled the hopper twice and then looked, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna run out here in about 150 more rounds. So,
bummer.
Yeah. And that's the only thing. That's the only thing that really irks my nerves about having an 8-pound jug. You get to a point where it's kind of difficult without weighing it to eyeball how much powder is left in there, so you don't realize how far down you are until you go to you pick it up and like, wow, this feels awful light.
There's a way you can do that
With a scale,
a ruler.
It's called a flashlight.
A flashlight and a ruler.
Yes, that would involve forethought, which I failed at.
Yes.
Go ahead, guys.
And you call yourself a prepper. And you call yourself a prepper.
Dang, he went there.
But in my defense, what I'm lacking at is my go-to powder. My go-to powder for 5.56. I got about 4 pounds of other stuff I could load 5.56 with, and it's not like I don't already have 1,700 loaded rounds. So it's not exactly like I'm out. I'm just don't have the stuff I want to have, which I'll rectify in the near future. That, and I'm trading off a whole bunch of 40 cal bullets I had lying around for some powder. So hopefully that goes down here shortly, and I'll get a couple new powders to play with.
Nice.
Awkward silence is awkward.
Well, you're supposed to kick it to somebody else when you're done.
Okay, Jim, what have you done?
Well,
oh, this is going to be good.
Did a little bit more rearranging, about 6 hours, 8 hours of rearranging, sorting brass, ammo, and bullets. Put everything on the steel shelves that I almost collapsed some time ago. But anyway, but on Monday, I had a little bit of shooting. You guys do. I know you guys are going to say it's not real shooting, but I'll tell you what. Air rifles are amazingly accurate. Generally speaking, they're amazingly accurate. And some of those machines are absolutely wicked in how accurate they are. So anyway, I have an old Chinese junk, not junk, but an old Chinese side cocking air rifle. And I found some pellets when I was going through all that brass bullets and ammo and everything that finally got it unpacked. Anyway, I found some pellets, so I decided to step outside and, blow off a few rounds. That rifle is still pretty damned accurate. I was hitting pine branches at, I don't know, 50 feet. You can see the little ding marks that the pellet puts on them. I wasn't using BBs. I was using regular pellets, hunting pellets, that sort of thing. So I did some shooting. Travis is going to say it's not real shooting, and I can't disagree. But at the same time, it was in my backyard, and I have neighbors immediately behind me about 800 yards away, and if I were to use a centerfire rifle in that area, I think they would take a dim view of getting projectiles through the living room window.
So what I'm hearing is you need to make friends with somebody with a bulldozer and make a berm.
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
I've already planned this out. See, my game plan down the road is like 30 acres in the middle of nowhere and make friends with somebody with a bulldozer to make a berm.
Yeah. Well, out to all, you got to pay their fuel at least. But whatever. I don't own enough property yet. I don't own enough property. Besides that, it's more fun going to range with somebody.
True.
Anyway, how about you, Jason? Did you do anything, buddy? You're muted, Jason. Hello.
No, I'm not muted, Jim, because I just unmuted myself.
See how you are?
I went shooting 2 weekends ago, and that Hornady bulk ammo I've been talking about, I shot that consistently out to 1,250 yards on a 1 MOA target.
Are we talking your 6.5?
Yep. So yeah, the Hornady American Gunner, that's what it's called. So I was pretty impressed with that. And Terry Dillashaw, he knew I was going out to Nevada, so he told me to take his 300 rum.
Ooh.
And he had some.
Ooh, that would be sweet.
It's a nice rifle.
Mm-hmm.
He had some loads that he had made up. And so I took that out, and I didn't have any data on them, so I didn't know how fast the bullets were traveling or anything. And it's just a hunting scope. It's not doesn't have target turrets. So we had a 2 MOA target set up at 1 mile. And so I just took a guess, and I held over 15 mils, and I took a shot, and one of the spotters said up to and left 1 target. And I took a second shot, and I hit that 1 mile target.
Oh, you dog you. I hate you, Jason Trumbo. Congratulations, buddy. 1 mile, 5,280 feet.
Yep.
You
so
dog
I
you.
up, and I did my happy dance, and then I went through the camp and high-fived everybody.
Second shot, 1 mile.
Yep. And then everybody else wanted a turn on that rifle, and nobody else could hit it with that rifle. But I found out later, after talking to Terry, there was actually 2 different loads in that box. So they were probably shooting over the target, was my guess. And we didn't see the impact. So
that's funny.
But everybody hit a mile with a rifle. It just depended on whose rifle they had. But everybody there hit a mile. So that was pretty cool. A really nice time. That was Matt and Pete from Precision Marksmanship headquarters. And then my buddy Dusty, he's an airman over at Travis Air Force Base. Actually, his home state is right where you live, Jim.
Yeah, we'll have to hook you'll have to hook us up.
He's got a little bit more of an accent than you have.
You mean he speaks like a Tar Heel boy?
Yeah. And every once in a while, somebody would go, "Golly," because that's how he talked.
Oh, well.
But it was a good time, and I think that's about it for me. Who's next?
Travis.
So Saturday I shot a 3-gun competition.
And
then I got in this auto drive for my 1050. So I have been going to town on all the brass I have in my reloading room. I have processed every piece of 223 brass I have, and I'm on to 300 blackout now. I gotta say, I love this auto drive. Makes things so much easier.
Anyway, well, like I said, you two guys on this show I've already told I hate tonight. It's like you, Travis, and you, Jason. Congratulations to both of you. That's a big accomplishment. You know, there's a good bit of money sitting over your right shoulder, behind your right shoulder, Travis. Good job, buddy. Good job. Anyway, I guess that's about it. Mike went first. He pulled me up. I pulled Phil up, or he pulled Phil up. That's right. And Phil dragged me into this shenanigan fest. Jason just got done, and boy, I'll tell you what, I'm really tickled for Jason. 1 mile. 1 mile. I've tried to shoot 1,000 yards, and it didn't work. But that was, oh, there's trouble right behind me.
I have to admit, I'm pretty impressed with that. I'm not even going to take the opportunity to bag on Jason. That's an accomplishment.
You bet. No.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you for sharing with us. Anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty darn awesome. So
Jim, you haven't taken that fancy dancy rifle out of yours out to a mile yet?
No, I haven't, Jason. I just haven't. The closest 500-yard range is an hour and a half away from me, north of me, called frontlinedefenseusa.com.
Okay.
And but you know, $20 an hour, which ain't so bad. You know, if you're going to stand for 2A, you got to put your money where your mouth is. Okay, I get all that, but it's still doggone, man. It's an hour and a half away.
Right.
So what I have to do is get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, I don't think they open until 8, but get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, leave out of here at 6, and all that sort of thing. And, you know, it's kind of, anyway, you all get the idea.
mm-hmm.
Slacker. I know, slacker.
Oh, and I talked to Hookem last Tuesday after I missed the podcast. He sent me his phone number on Facebook, and he wanted to talk. And he's kind of a funny guy to talk to on the phone.
I'm sure if you talked to him that night, it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I'd have to bleep out about 75% of what he said to be on the podcast. But it went something like, you bleeping bleep, you bleeping live in California, and you bleeping shoot a mile. But it was said with all the love of Mark Hookem.
Well, that's good.
Well, he was drinking straight Johnny Walker that night.
Yeah, he was.
He was feeling no pain, put it that way.
Rather well lubricated.
Sometimes that's a good thing.
Yep.
I put you this way: he could have smashed his thumb in a press and probably wouldn't noticed until he started seeing blood on the casings.
Yeah, well, but you know what? He held it together. I got to give him credit for that. He did. He didn't make a mess out of himself. He held everything together. He just ignored the podcast host chat.
Probably for the best.
Yeah.
So I asked Paul in the live chat. He was talking about the 366, and he says the gas assist slows it down so you can't go too fast. And so that's kind of how that does.
So the gas assist would be kind of like a
governor,
pneumatic shock absorber type of thing, or
shock absorber or governor, I guess. So
okay.
Anyway, doesn't sound like something that's worth having. So probably just one of those stupid things they charge a crap ton of money for.
Mike, I tell you what, I have been known to go too damn fast on my Dillon, and things wind up falling and going crazy. You know, it might be something to, you know, it just, the governor concept sounds like a pretty good idea to me. It's just something that's worth researching. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Here's me playing devil's advocate, though. Is it going slow or being smooth that helps a progressive press behave itself?
Smooth.
But is that gas assist for a press that is automated? It's probably not for one that a guy's pulling the handle on.
I don't know. I don't really. I think they just call it an auto because that's Hornaday's thing. They call everything a flipping auto. And I don't see anything about it actually being automated. So, Tony, why the heck do you want to see me? Smatterchew. So, yeah, Paul said it makes it it's smooth. So, I run a Lee Loadmaster. I know how to be smooth with a handle. If you want to learn how to get smooth, run a Loadmaster. Anyway.
Or drink Kessler. Smooth as glass. That used to be their commercial.
Yep.
What type of glass? I've had Kesslers. There's nothing smooth about it. There's a reason it's on the bottom shelf at the bar.
Probably like bathroom window glass, the etch stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, pretty much. Anyway. Now where'd he go?
I'm here.
You have no picture.
Oh. Yep, I accidentally muted the picture. Oh, geez. See how I am.
You can go back to that. Nobody objects.
Yeah, I got it face made for radio. I know. It's time for the cartridge corner.
Correct. What do we got tonight, Jim?
We have a personal favorite of mine, and it's called the 270 Winchester.
All right.
And it's cartridge that I just learned a little bit about tonight. Turns out I was absolutely dead wrong. I assumed that the cartridge was a child case of the 30-06 Springfield, which is not correct. I'll start reading from the Wikipedia article. The 270 Winchester is a rifle cartridge developed by Winchester Repeating Arms Company in 1923 and unveiled in 1925 as a chambering for their bolt action Model 54. The cartridge is a neck-down 30-03, which is the same length as the 280 Remington, both of which are longer than the 30-06 Springfield. The 270, 280, and the 30-06 were all derived from the parent case 30-03. The 270 Winchester became a very popular cartridge. Excuse me, I got to do something here.
Ooh.
Sorry about that.
It's going to come up again and again.
Yeah. Anyway, the 270 Winchester became a very popular cartridge due to the widespread praises of gun writers like Townsend Wayland and Jack O'Connor, who used the cartridge for 40 years and touted its merits in the pages of Outdoor Life. Townsend Wayland, he's the guy who had the 35 Wayland created after himself because he liked putting 35 caliber bullets in the 30-06 cartridge. And Jack O'Connor, he was a big-time hunter. He hunted elephant with the 270. He really boosted up, propped up, or what do you want to call it, the 270. It drives an 8.4 gram bullet, 130 grain at approximately 960 meters per second, 3140 feet per second, later reduced down to 30,060 feet per second. That's factory ammo. The cartridge demonstrated high performance at the time of its introduction and was marketed as being suitable for big game shooting in the 270, clear out to 300 to 500 yards. Two additional bullets were soon introduced, the 100 grain hollow point bullet, and it is a scorcher, and the 150 grain bullet for larger deer, elk, moose, and so on and so forth for big game hunting. While not an immediate success, over the succeeding decades, especially in the post-World War II period, the 270 Winchester attained great popularity among gun owners, metallic silhouette shooters, and hunters, ranking it among the most popular and widely used cartridges worldwide. I'm going to stop reading there. There's a couple more sentences in the article that I stole, but you all get the idea. The reason why it's a personal favorite of mine is it was my first major caliber. It was I got a Husqvarna Model 7, I think it is, made by Vapin Fabrics, and that's Husqvarna spelled QV, HSUQVARNA. It's made in Sweden and all that sort of thing. And a very dear friend of mine, actually, he was my cousin's husband. And he actually gave me a big assist in buying that, because my first rifle, centerfire rifle, would have been a 223 bolt gun that I was going to try to hunt deer with. Well, unbeknownst to me at the time, it was illegal to hunt deer with a 223 rifle. He set me on the right path, and wound up, I still have that rifle. It's got a beautiful blonde stock on it. It's also got a 24 power Unertl scope on it. The scope's about so long. You guys, if anybody knows about the Unertl optics, you know that the Unertl optical system has a big old objective lens, a little tiny ocular lens, and it's got a recoil system on it, a spring that slides right down the barrel of the tube. And I put it on there, and I've actually shot that rifle at 500 yards and did pretty well with it. But that rifle, I went and was diddling around with it one time. I swear the rangefinder said it was 250 yards, but Jim says it was 225 yards. However, I printed 2 groups at 1 13/16 of an inch with 140 grain Hornady Spire Point bowtail. That's my favorite bullet for the 270. Now, as I said in the article, they only introduced the 3 factory bullets, 100 grain, 130, 150 grain. Well, the reloaders and Sierra Bullets now makes 140 grain too. The reloaders demanded that Hornady do something. They came up with an interim bullet, 140 grain Spire Point with a secant ogive. Yeah, that's what it's called. Anyway, so you guys know a little bit of history about me. That's why I like the 270 Winchester. Any questions, guys?
Nope. It's a great cartridge. It's actually overtaking the good old 3030 for becoming one of the most popular deer cartridges now.
It'll have to go a long way to beat that 3030.
Right.
I would think the 308, because it's so much shorter and so much more efficient, would be overtaking the 3030, but who knows?
People like their lever guns.
Yep.
Yeah, my grandpa had a lever gun, and that's what I hunted with, so I want my kid to hunt with. Yeah. So
yeah,
but the thing is today's lever guns are a lot safer than the lever guns of old. So at the very minimum, they've got a catch. So if you drop the hammer, unless you're holding the trigger back, it won't go off. So,
well, yeah, that's on the modern firearms. Yeah, I've shot more than 194 Model 94 that had you let that hammer down wrong, it's going to go off.
Mm-hmm. Yep. One of the things, probably the single biggest action that we spent the most time on with hunter safety.
Yep, that damned hammer.
Mm-hmm.
In them old Model 94s, and the Marlin 1894s, I do believe they have a hammer block.
I'm not sure. I don't remember.
I'd have to go upstairs.
Yeah.
All right.
So, our first question of the night is from Josh Lee, and he posted it in the reloading room. He said, "Sure, this was posted many times before, but I'm just getting my feet wet and reloading, and I see a lot about difficulty in loading belted Magnum cartridges. I will primarily be loading 7mm Rem Mag. What do I need to do it correctly to be safe and get decent brass life? I have a couple of reloading manuals that I use. I know there's a ton of experience on this page, so please only comment if you are truly experienced on this topic. I look forward to learning from you all. So, the last comment, kind of, sometimes when you post stuff in the reloading room, because there is so many people, you get a lot of input, and some of it's not always necessarily completely helpful. So that's, I've seen that a few times on postings. So, belted magnums. First off, what's a belted magnum? What does that mean?
It's a magnum that has trouble keeping its pants up.
Oh, jeez. And explain the 350 Remington Magnum. There's no belt on that cartridge.
So it doesn't have a problem keeping its belt up.
Apparently.
We're using Phil's logic.
That's scary.
Exactly.
Been huffing swamp gas again, haven't you?
Now, belted magnum literally has almost kind of like a raised shoulder right at the case head, just above the extractor rim.
Why?
As I understand it, the theory at the time these really came into vogue was that it would give more accurate head spacing versus head spacing off the shoulder. That's the story I heard.
Okay.
I wasn't alive when most of these cartridges were thought of, so that's all I can do is recount the stories I've heard.
I was under the impression it was to add additional strength to the head of the cartridge because they were trying to take and boost up the pressure and, strengthen the brass in the head area. Well, Phil, I'm not saying you're wrong. You could be right. I'm just giving you my thoughts. I don't have any knowledge of history to back it up.
Jim, you are wrong.
Yes.
Okay.
As usual.
However, I'm right there with you. Yeah, that's what I've heard a lot too. So Phil Massaro actually wrote an article. Yes, that Phil Massaro wrote an article back in 2014 on the belted magnum. And when he's done playing in Africa, he's going to come back on, by the way. So probably November-ish, waiting for things to slow down. Sometime between November and SHOT Show, he'll be on. Nice. So that'll be another fun night.
It's almost
so basically, the reason for the belt is exactly what Phil said. It is supposed to add more accurately headspace. Now, what's headspace? Anybody?
Jason?
Well,
Don't make me tell more stupid jokes.
So, you want me to take this one, Jason?
Please do.
It is basically the space between the face of the bolt and your chamber.
Face of the bolt and your chamber, or face of the bolt in the chamber?
In the chamber.
Travis,
so you have your chamber. I guess I'm not saying it right. You have your chamber, and then you have your bolt face.
Right. You're half right so far. On the shoulder of the cartridge, and no, it's on. Let me start that over. On the belted magnum, Travis, can you take a pencil and point it to the head of that? And
yeah, so I have right here. If my camera will focus nicely,
right.
I have a 300 Win Mag, and that looks like and you can see it right.
Yeah, we can see it right there. Yes. That little belt's about 100 thousandths wide. That's what that cartridge is supposed to headspace on, according to the factory specs. That little dimension there. What is that? 1/4 inch, Travis, top to bottom?
Top to bottom of what? Just the belted
top
part?
Top of the belt to the head of the case. What is that? 200 thousandths, 250 thousandths?
Yeah, it's just over. Looks like it's just over 1/4 inch or so. So the actual definition of headspace is defined as the space or distance between the face of the bolt and a specific predetermined point in or at the chamber.
Perfect.
Yep.
Yep.
There
Mike's
is
got a belted magnum right there in his hand.
Yeah, I forgot I had these.
Yep.
What is that case, Mike?
That is a 7 Rem mag.
Nope.
That some idiot put a sticker on the wrong spot on the box.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, I'm not even going to try and peel it off because I know what'll happen. So, but yeah, I forgot I had these until you were talking about, and then 7 Rem mag clicked, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I got some of those. That was in a garage sale find where I got a couple of Lee loaders and some other odd crap, and he says, here, you can have the ammo too. I'm like, all right. So I won't ever shoot that stuff, but it's fun to have. And no, this isn't the original ammo that's in there. So the original ammo has been long shot and reloaded because there's a Lee loader in 7 Rem mag in that bucket too.
So essentially, the question was, what does he have to do to extend the life of his brass? It's really a simple answer. All five of us know what the answer is. Load your ammo in a mild fashion. Don't try to take and load up your ammo as hot and fast as it can possibly go.
There's actually a couple things you can do. One of which I'm not going to say because I don't recommend it necessarily because it takes a little more effort. But if you do some research, you'll figure it out. And I know it works because I did it on a certain 257 Weatherby Magnum, which is also a belted cartridge.
There's another trick you can do with the headspace. You can actually reload, which I think was where Mike didn't want to go. You can actually full-length resize that brass in such a way that you force the cartridge to headspace on the shoulder and neck of the cartridge, and it'll give you more accuracy because you're focusing your everything on the entire length of the cartridge. It's not an unsound reloading practice. It's not dangerous or anything like that. But if you just neck size your brass, you will also extend your case life.
Yep, that was the other one I would suggest is neck size. Basically what you do is once you fire form that brass to your rifle, as far as full length resizing, it's honestly a waste of time. Basically, you just need to reform the neck to get back down so you can actually get your proper neck tension to be able to seat your bullet. So, every couple of firings, you're going to have to check it to make sure it's still within specs as far as length and everything, making sure it still fits, make sure it's still head spacing properly. Basically, head spacing, to put it bluntly, head spacing is a distance between the head of the cartridge and the bolt face. Too little, you can cause too much problems. Too much, you can cause even more problems. It has to be a fine balance. And yes, even semi-automos like ARs, you have to still account for head spacing. Now, the nice thing is about the AR, the way it's designed, it allows a little more leeway than a bolt action does. I don't know, definitely more than a break action does, because the break action is literally, the breech if you crack it open. But that's kind of the basic, simple premise: is head spacing is the distance between the head of the case and the bolt face. That's it.
In other words, the way it fits into the chamber.
Right.
And guys, to sidebars, this sort of came up in a post in the Reloading Podcast group this past week, because a gentleman, he loaded a bunch of ammo for his AR-10 and then tried to shoot it out of his bolt action 308 and discovered some of the ammunition would not chamber.
Correct.
In the bolt gun. And that was the thing I'd suggested to him, was it's very possible that you didn't bump the shoulder back quite far enough to run in your bolt action, which, going by the averages, most bolt actions are going to tend to have a little tighter tolerance, a little tighter headspace, and the AR-10 is, by its design, going to be a little more forgiving of that. So if you're right on the edge of having the shoulder bump back far enough, it'd run in the AR-10, it would run in the bolt action. Same kind of thing we're talking about here.
Yep.
So what we're talking about by bumping the shoulder back and full length resizing and everything, here's a piece of brass. Okay. This is 308 brass. So full length resizing means you literally shove everything up into the die. Usually, if you have
Hold it up a little higher, Mike. Up a little higher, Mike. Thank you.
I don't like it. So usually when you stuff the whole thing in, and I'll flip it over so it's right side up. When you stuff the whole thing in the die, usually the rim is going to be exposed. You won't see it because it's in the shell holder.
Right.
But usually it's probably about to there where my thumbnail is. This will get better as soon as I get that last piece of hardware. And I can use the GoPro. Anyway, so that focuses a little better. But usually about to here, you're never going to see because it's inside the shell holder. The rest of it's all up inside the die. Now, so this is the shoulder. Never have a pencil when I want it. Okay, so here's your mouth, here's your neck, here's your shoulder, and then here's your main body. What we're talking about by bumping the shoulder back is actually moving just this back, squeezing this back without necessarily touching the rest of this. Because what we want to do is as you fire it, this kind of goes forward. Because what happens when your rifle is, when you're sitting in your chamber and it goes off, the brass literally goes everywhere. So what happens is this normally sits down on the bottom of the chamber. Unless you have one of the fancy rifles where it actually holds the shell, the cartridge in the bolt. There's basically two different designs of bolts. There's one that actually drops it in the chamber. The other one is the actual one that holds it. That one is usually found on big game, dangerous game rifles because it's a little more accurate, a little more forgiving. And you don't have to worry about your cartridge magically falling out and jamming when you're trying to reload rapidly. Most of your normal hunting rifles do not have such a bolt because it is rather expensive to build. Most of your hunting rifles are built cheaply. Yes, I'm calling your $1,500 rifle cheap. So, the big game, dangerous game rifles, you're starting at $10,000. So, yeah. Anyway, so what happens is we want to push the shoulder back, and usually it's about 2/1000s, and you don't want to mess with the rest of this because you don't want to work the brass. So that's the whole entire idea, is you're just literally getting the die to hit here and push back without squishing the rest of this down. So that's the long and convoluted explanation without actually showing. So now there are body dies that you can use to do the whole thing, and those are a little easier to use than using a full length sizing die.
In Phil's situation that you've talked about in Reloading Podcast Group, that AR-10 is a military chamber. What they do generally, they don't remember everyone. They don't conform to SAMI specs. They're close, but their chambers are usually built a little longer, meaning the headspace, of course, in a 308 cartridge is based off the shoulder angle, the datum line on there, 375 datum line, and to the head of the case. The point is, like everyone says, it's the way it fits in the cartridge. Well, that chamber happens to be it fits in the chamber. That chamber happens to be a little longer in the AR-10, which is why the writer, reader, commenter, listener didn't have any trouble with his AR-10. And like Phil said, bolt guns are all, what do you call it? They're not as forgiving. They're built a little smaller, a little tighter, a little closer to the go gauge.
And decidedly so, because your basic premise behind a bolt gun is it's more than likely going to be a hunting gun, and you're trying for better accuracy. Whereas,
think about that oxymoron, Mike.
Yeah.
The oxymoron is originally bolt guns were what the military people used in combat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, another thing to consider is the fact that with a semi-auto, you're relying on momentum and spring pressure to seat that next round in the chamber. Whereas with a bolt gun, this is what's pushing that round into the chamber, and this is what's locking the bolt, locking the locking lugs down. You have the ability to use your arm strength to pull the bolt down and cam it into play, cam the bolt locks down in. So, I mean, you end up in a situation where the bolt action, the chamber can afford to be a little tighter because you have better mechanical advantage chambering that next round.
Exactly.
And you also tend to have, more positive extraction because, again, once you get the bolt handle up, you got a right arm and a bicep pulling that round out of the chamber, as opposed to gas pressure, recoil, whatever the mode of operation is of your firearm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. So yeah, basically, if you want to save yourself on working the brass, neck size only. That's the ultimate best. Or just there's kind of different ways to do it, and just kind of neck size only is the best way. Oops. But otherwise, what you can do is focus on your brass prep status, so you're not full length resizing that case every time is the ultimate goal. Making sure, obviously, you're going to full length resize it once, unless you buy the brass brand new as a loaded cartridge and then fire it in your rifle. So, but usually, typically, with my 308s, when I was doing it, I would push the shoulder back. I could do 4 firings before I had to worry about pushing the shoulder back again. So, if you have more questions on that, or we brought up something else that you're kind of like, wait, what, huh? Shoot us a message. So, all right. So, next question is from Brooks, and he said he posted this in Cast Bullets and Bullet Casting. Why do non-cast projectiles require so much additional propellant in comparison to their cast counterparts of the same weight? That's a loaded question per se, because you are pushing your non-cast projectile a lot faster. So, anybody else have anything else to add to that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Jason, you unmuted. Go ahead, buddy.
So you won't get gas cutting on your copper jacketed bullet.
Yep.
So to launch it quickly, some of that gas is going to escape. So you can actually rev it up a little bit, so to speak, to get your speed up. Excuse me. I kind of want to disagree with how you said that, Mike, because
Disagree away.
I can use a little bit less powder on my cast bullets and launch them just as fast to a point.
Okay. Now,
How about you, Travis? What do you got to say? Or are you frozen up over there? You don't have anything to say?
No, I'm just listening.
Go ahead, Mike. I interrupted you again.
no, I was going to say, now, why do you think that you can do that with lead? Is it because it's a lower friction coefficient?
Why can I load less powder and
get same speed?
Faster?
Yeah.
Because of my size of my lead. It's bigger than the copper jacketed. It seals the chamber better.
So you're not losing your energy around the bullet and down the barrel before the bullet gets out.
Yes. Again, to a point.
To a point. So, what the to a point means, in my thought, is if you're not doing the work to make sure your lead bullets are properly sized for your barrel. You take a 9mm handgun and you take 2.356 bullets, one cast, one copper jacketed, and you put them down your barrel at the same time, you may not get those same results. Why is that, Phil?
I'm trying to think of an answer that doesn't sound as lame as all firearms are different, all chambers are different, all bullets are different, everything is its own unique set of variables. But I'm trying to think of a non-lame as hell way of putting that.
Well, it's not really lame, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
But I guess I'm saying it sounds like a cop-out, because even though we know that's the answer, that becomes the answer for a lot of this, is why can you not produce result A out of firearm B? You can only produce this result out of this firearm with this brass, this bullet, this powder, this primer, at this time, at this temperature, at this barometric pressure.
Mm-hmm.
It's little details produce a different result.
So if you have a 9mm, which theoretically should be somewhere in the 356 range, 0.356, but you have one that for whatever reason, when they made the barrel, the actual diameter is 0.358. And you try and run your 0.356 lead bullet down that barrel, you're not going to get that seal effect that Jason was talking about. In fact, more than likely, you're probably going to get gas cutting.
Mm-hmm.
And what gas cutting really is, for those of you who don't know, is essentially what happens is the gas and the flame run around the back of the bullet. Most of your lead is flat base, because trying to make a boat tail would be really ridiculous, because you would increase your chances of gas cutting. So what happens is, if the base of the bullet doesn't flare out and seal all the way around against the rifling and create a seal, then that gas can actually go around, and it actually starts to literally cut into the bullet. And then all of that lead has to go somewhere, so it usually winds up in the rifling. Well, that creates a heck of a lot more drag than your full metal jacket bullet, which is designed to not really, it really doesn't flare out like the lead does, because it's a harder, but it's also designed to engage the rifling and go. Whereas the lead, that kind of operates a little differently. And so that's why you may not get necessarily the same as what Jason did with his, because I'm pretty sure that his full metal jacket is not the same diameter as his cast lead. Am I correct, Jason? And he's still muted.
Yes, that is correct.
All right. Now, let's explain one thing about Jason. The reason he's muted a lot is because the poor guy literally gets home from work and walks into his studio and sits down. Yep. So that means he didn't get time to grab anything to drink. He didn't get anything to snack on or anything like that. So a lot of times when Jason's muted, it's because he's getting something to drink or he's snacking on something because he's starving. So that's why Jason's muted. So it's not like he's bored and doesn't want to talk. Jason does make a good sacrifice to literally just walk in the door and most times sit down and start recording. So
thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
I believe the man actually sometimes leaves work early to make it home in time for the podcast.
Don't tell the boss.
Yeah, the boss is behind him, and she's not in the same room. Mm-hmm. But anyway, there's another reason, guys, why the velocity is different with jacketed bullets. It's the major reason of everything we talked about. Remember, that bullet is smooth when it gets seated into the cartridge. The walls of it, I'm talking about, there's no marks on it. It's nice and shiny and round, assuming. whether it's jacketed or cast. But the rifling has to engrave upon the walls of the bullet. The tensile strength of the copper jacket is quite a bit higher than it is for the tensile strength of the walls of the lead bullet. And that tensile strength creates drag, more drag. That's why it requires more energy to take and get more energy to get both of them running up at the same velocity. Not a lot more, but still the point is.
That is the main point, and why you do need different powder charges for different weights or same weights. All right, last question for the night. Should be a pretty quick one. David LaMagna posted in the reloading room. Those who have different rifles in the same cartridge, do you have separate full-length dies for each rifle? Well, does anybody have? So, in, say, 223, the thing is he doesn't really specify semi-auto, bolt, brake action, lever action. He doesn't really say what type of rifle. So there are very legitimate reasons why you could and or would have different full-length sizing dies. If you have 308 or 223, 556, it's very entirely possible that for your regular bolt gun, you just have a standard full-length sizing die. But especially if you're shooting an AR platform, you may have a small base die for loading those. So,
Mike,
okay.
I have 4 firearms chambered in 223.
Yep.
Okay, I have one sizing die. It's a full-length sizing die. It works well for everything. But remember, too, I've got enough experience to know that if I want to take and build AR ammo for my AR, my Mini 14, I just take and make sure I have the press cam over and full-length resize. For my bolt gun, take that back. I got 5 firearms for that. And for the 2 bolt guns, I do make sure it's a little smaller. But essentially, I reload them all the same. It's the formula, the recipe that I put inside is what's different.
Mm-hmm. So how do you keep it separated?
I don't. Oh, you mean like for the bolt gun ammo? I keep it in an MTM 100 round MTM box.
Okay.
MTM ammo box.
So the rifle ammo, you definitely don't load as much as you do for the Mini 14 or the AR.
No.
And
I call that flow through fodder.
Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely something that you do want to watch out for if you are loading especially different recipes. Is make sure you're doing it.
Yeah, because the bolt gun ammo doesn't need to be quite as hot as the Mini 14 and the AR ammo because there's a certain amount of gas bled off from each round to operate the firearm.
Right. Whereas
that same bleed off doesn't occur in a bolt gun, and it could become a little hotter.
Mm-hmm.
Not could. It does become a little hotter.
Yep.
I was going to offer, I don't own 2 rifles in the same caliber, but I'll apply a little bit of my handgun and loading experience to the question. I, especially like in between 38 Special and 357 Magnum, I load both those cartridges and 2 different bullet weights with the exact same set of dies. So RCBS gives you these little lock rings that have a set screw on them that you can screw in to secure the lock ring in place so that you go back to the same setting every time. I've taken all those loose. And what I do is some that Jim actually mentioned to me, probably about a year ago. And Jim made the comment that every time he puts a die in a press, he resets it because his experience in the machine as a machinist makes him very comfortable going through and setting up that die for use every single time. So he doesn't feel the need to lock those lock rings down and make sure that he maintains the same setting. He just knows how to return to the original setting. So a lot of times what I do, especially because I'm using one set of dies to do two different cartridges with two different loaded lengths, is I just leave all the lock rings loose. And I constantly, depending on what I'm loading, I will manipulate the dies and I'll set them up for that cartridge. And especially like if you're using two different bullet lengths, you're going to start unscrewing cedar plugs immediately. So, I mean, my point of view is I couldn't justify having two different full length sizing, two different dies for the same cartridge. Because I know, with the exception of a full length sizing die versus a small base die, I know I can get that one die to load for two different guns, depending on how you set it up.
Well, like you said, Phil, you're altering the recipe. The other thing I was going to suggest to you when you're actually set up and reloading either 38 or 357, when you get everything set up on the sizing die especially, make sure you lock up your lock ring in the press so that it doesn't come loose while you're actually reloading.
Don't misunderstand. I make sure that the lock ring is like, you know, pretty firmly bottomed out against the,
and then tightened up on the, yeah, and then you tighten up the lock screw.
I actually don't take that step. I have an adjustable wrench that stays on the bench strictly to grab that lock ring and kind of give it a good bump up against the top bushing on the press. But I don't use the set screws anymore. Maybe
no. What I was talking about is not the set screw kind where they actually go through the threads. I'm talking about the split kind where it's actually split and you bring the ends together. And there's a screw in the side of it, and it'll draw up and hold your die nice and tight.
Yeah, I'm not sure what company uses them, but it's not RCBS, and that's where most of my equipment came from.
Well, doing it that way is much more expensive than just driving a set screw through the wall of the threads.
True, but I guess that's my spiel. It's not that hard to take all your dies, take your dies loose, and change all the settings, and set up to load two different cartridges. I mean, I had this anecdotal experience a couple weekends ago. I went from loading 125 grain flat points to 158 grain flat points in 38 special, and this knucklehead right here completely forgot to reset the cedar plug on the seating die. Don't ask me why, but that first 158 grain bullet that I seated, I realized immediately I had a severe problem on my hands because it was pounded way too far in that cartridge.
After you threw your dad under the bus for doing the same damn thing.
But in my experience, I had my calipers on the bench because I was loading that 158 grain flat point for the first time. And I mean, you didn't even have to look at it to know it was wrong. It was obviously wrong.
How'd you take it apart? I
took an inertia puller, whacked it on the top of my bench vise one good time to pop that bullet halfway back out, and then backed off the cedar plug like 5 or 6 full turns and slowly worked in it a little time and snuck up on it until I had it the right dimension.
There you go.
But I guess what I'm saying is, you know, looking at those bullets side by side after the fact, you could see where the 125 grain had almost the I guess what you refer to as the ogive if we were talking about a rifle bullet, but it was, those walls were flat and they were curved on the 158 grain round nose. So the part of the bullet that the cedar plug interfaced with was much higher on the 158 grain bullet.
That's right.
So yeah, I had my goober moment. I'm off my soapbox.
Yeah, we all do.
You did good, Phil. You did real good. You knew instantly, and you threw yourself under the bus instead of throwing Carl under.
I don't throw anybody under the bus. I just I like to give cautionary notes to the listeners, and if that comes at my own expense, I'm okay with that.
Amen.
To me, it's like if you can learn from my little screw up, I'm fine with that.
Yep. All right, gang. Want to take a time to thank everybody who swings over to firearmsradio.tv and hits the Amazon and Brownells links. Saves us some, or helps us out at the network because it gives us some money and it doesn't cost you guys any extra money. So sorry, I just saw something that was interesting in the chat. Anyway, thank everybody that tunes in live tonight. We got 40, so that's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool, and we still had a couple people just popping in now. So that's pretty cool that, you know, even though we're getting towards the end of the show, they're still popping in. So that's awesome. And the nice thing is when you watch the video back live, if you watch the video back on YouTube, the chat all appears as you're watching it. So you can kind of see what we were talking about as we were going. So it's pretty cool. So, and the videos stay up there as long as YouTube keeps us around. So, you know, how that goes. I want to take time to thank everybody who sends us emails and messages, texts, voicemails, emails, reloadingpodcast@gmail.com, text and voicemails 608-467-0308. And you can also leave comments in the show notes at firearmsradio.tv. We get that also. So
Is that where the reviews come from, Mike? Is in the show notes?
some of them do. Some of them come from iTunes.
Okay.
So, Mike, do we want to tell viewers that we are going to be getting back on the giveaway stuff? We're just going to redo the way we've been doing it a little bit.
Yeah. Starting next week, we are going to do a live drawing on the show. Unfortunately, just it was kind of partially poor planning on my part. Just didn't work out well. Me trying to set up aside time on a Friday night or a Sunday night to do a drawing.
Well, in my opinion, it's nice to do it on air too, so guys can, yeah. And it's not just going to be the people tuning in live. It's going to be the drawings are going to be all the people that have sent in entries. The spreadsheet's almost done, so we'll be able to tailor it to different products. So, and we're going to start that next week. So we'll probably do the drawing right after Cartridge Corner. And then we can go from that into the main topic. So maybe we'll come up with a cool bumper for it.
The giveaway time.
I said cool bumper, Jim.
Oh. Hi, Jason. Hi, Jason. There's a message right there, buddy.
The Banana Splits. Great show. Great show.
I hated that show. So much insulting intelligence in that show wasn't funny.
That was the entire point behind it, Jim.
Yep. La 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 la. Oh God! Now I got it. I got to YouTube that just to get it out of my head.
1 banana, 2 banana, 3 banana, 4.
I hate you again, Jason.
Yay!
Oh, Jiminy Crickets.
If I was really a mean person, I would actually YouTube that right now, but I'm not. So, want to thank all the Patreons. Keep supporting us. We added another new one during the show. I saw the message pop up. I didn't look at the name yet. So, awesome to that. And I want to thank everybody that sends that. That's the other thing we're going to work on before next week is everybody who's a Patreon is going to get more than one entry into the giveaway drawings. So, other shows do that, and it's only fair if we're doing it too. So we're going to figure that out if it's just going to be a single or how that's going to work. So, but yeah, Tony in the chat said Phil and Travis look like they don't know the Banana Splits. Nope, I'm pretty sure they're too young. So
I'm surprised you're old enough to know it, Mike. You're one of the youngest ones here.
No, I'm not.
I know I didn't say you are the. I said one of.
So, just thank everybody that continues to pour into the show. We have fun doing this. We really do. We do it to educate everybody, and we learn stuff along the way. So keep asking the questions. Keep sending us emails or chats or private messages. Post stuff on the podcast page or if you're a member of the podcast group.
Or the Reloading Room.
Yeah.
I learn stuff all the time. I get private messages all the time. And you know what? They're welcome.
Absolutely. We get asked questions where we don't know the answer. And then we get to learn too. So
exactly. Nobody learns more than the 5 of us.
Yeah. And it's a blast while we're doing it. So As I've explained it to people when they ask, it's kind of like five guys sitting around the bar talking about reloading. Although, it's not the same bar. So, but we love doing it. Love being able to show off and be able to give visuals now too, as well as the audio. So,
Yeah, it used to be we did it live on Skype.
So, and I love having the audience interaction. That is just an awesome addition. So, and on that note, keep your brass shiny.
Keep your powder dry.
Buy them cheap and stack them deep.
That's the way it was, and we liked it.
Oh, come on. If you're going to say that, you're going to do it right. It's the way it was, and we liked it.
And all I got to say is squeeze, don't yank that trigger.
Thanks, folks.